Hello everyone, I'm Tanmay and I'm a student of first year in pursuing BTech in Data Science and Artificial Intelligence in IIT Roorkee. Today, I'm going to be presenting my CWS project, that is, luck-based mini games in C++. So let's get started. So the goal of my project is simple. It is to create luck-based mini games and a user interface to navigate through them. The key features of this project are going to be using a random number generator, compiling multiple files of code into a single executable, usage of stream manipulators and ANSI escape codes. So, the project structure. So, I have split this project into separate files for better organization, and it also helped me debug the code a lot better. So, these are the names of the files that I have included: cws.cpp, which is my main file, then the three game files, and then there's a header file, games.h. So, what exactly is this header file? A header file is a file that contains declarations of functions but not their definitions. So what it basically means that it declares that these functions exist somewhere. You can see I've used these four functions here. So these functions are defined in some other file, but when I've declared these functions here, and that every file in the folder that has hashtag include games.h in it can access these functions. So this is the use of this header file. Then it can also be used to make certain variables be accessible across different files. Just like this extern int balance, which I have made this int variable be accessible across all the files. So this header files makes it a lot easier because otherwise every time I had to write all of this in every file. So what it does is just compiles everything into a single line so that it can be easier for us to include it in our code. Then you might be wondering, what is this hashtag if and def, hashtag define, and hashtag endif here? So these are preprocessor directives that are primarily used to implement an include guard. So what is an include guard? So an include guard is used to prevent a single header file from being included multiple times. So if you by mistakenly write these header file twice or thrice in your code, so what happens is the program sees that line and then copies every data, that is this integer, into storages on your program. So if you write it twice, it will take and copy it into twice the storage. So that is not efficient at all. So that's why we use this preprocessor directives. So what if and it does is that it checks if games is already defined or not. If it is, then it skips over this and goes forward. If it isn't, then only it enters this block. After it enters it, the first thing we do is define this block as games. Then we use our stuff like extern and random device, extern the variable we want to using, and all the functions. So this is the file structure. So as you can see, every file is connected to the header file by using hashtag include games.h. So when when I run the program, it runs the main file, and I have used hashtag include. So every function I call from other file is called using this header file. So before we head into the code, there are some things that we should discuss first. Is that how does a random number generator work? So it works by basically including three components, that is an engine, that is a pseudo random number generator, a non-deterministic seed source, and a distribution. So let's talk first about the engine. So what the engine is that it's an algorithm that here is the MT19937 or the Mersenne twister. It uses the seed to generate a long sequence of high quality uniformly distributed raw integers. So it gives us a very large sequence of numbers basically. So how it gives us that is that it uses a seed. So what is this seed? So this is the basis for any pseudo random number generator. So the seed is the initial value that it takes to start that algorithm. So if the seed is same for that algorithm, it will always give the same sequence of numbers. So the thing with pseudo-random number integers is that it can give us a random sequence of number, but every time we run it, it will give us the same sequence. So this is not true randomness. To include that true randomness, we use a non-deterministic seed source, that is, a random seed source. Every time we get a new seed that we use to generate new numbers. So for that, we use random device. So what it does, gives us a true random starting value. So how it does that, it uses the hardware entropy, ensuring the sequence changes every time. Then we have distribution, that is, it takes the engine's raw output and scales it down to fit our required range. Sometimes we don't need very high random numbers, we only need like 1 to 6 for a dice roll. So this distribution helps us to bind it into our required range. So what are ANSI escape codes? So these ANSI escape codes are sequence of characters that are used to control the formatting, colors, and positioning of text in the terminal. So these are not the part of the C++ language itself, but rather a universal standard that many terminals program recognize. So as you can see, this is not a part of C++ language, but a universal standard. So what it basically does, it helps us maneuver the output screen. Sometimes the cout doesn't give us many options to change the cout to manipulate the text there. So we use these answer scapegoats. Then their syntax. So it starts with the escape character \033. That gives the signal to the terminal that the following text is not to be shown in the output, but it's a command it has to be executed. Then we use a control sequence introducer, which is basically the left bracket. The combination \033 left bracket is a very common start for a control sequence. Then we give it a parameter like 0 or some numbers which is used to define the specifics of the command. Like sometimes we need to define like how many lines we have to go up or how many letters of characters should be colored or change style of. So that's why we use the parameters. Then the final character. That character specifies the type of command you have to execute, like going up in the output screen, re- clearing the output screen, and so on. So let's talk about stream manipulators. So stream manipulators are functions or objects that are inserted into an input or output stream to modify the behavior or format of the data being read or written. So let's talk about the stream first. So and in, let's talk about first the buffer. So what is this input buffer? So the input buffer is a temporary storage area, a small section of memory that holds data entered by the user before a C++ program requests it. So sometimes what happens when you write input data to give to the program doesn't take the entire data. It only takes some part of it. So what happens to the remaining data? It just doesn't get thrown out, but it is left in a temporary storage called the buffer. So next time when it is time to take the data, it takes the data from the buffer. So how are things processed in the buffer? The characters you type are taken and that are not taken by the program are stored in the buffer immediately. That includes everything: the characters, blank spaces, tabs, and even the new line character that is created when you press enter. So, the manipulators that I have used in this project are cin.ignore. What it does, it discards a certain number of characters from the input buffer. It is often used to create a leftover new line here. Then we have cin.fail. This is a function This is a function that returns the value true or false given if the last operation failed due to a formatting error. That indicates the fail bit is set. So what happens is sometimes the cin stream, that is the input stream, it fails. So how it fails is that if you have to enter a data, suppose integer, but you input a data that is a character like C or T, so the stream is set into a fail bit and now it functions erratically, unpredictably. So to fix this, there is a function called cin.clear. So it resets the internal error flags and put this like the fail bit and makes it usable again. The next is cin.peak. So it looks as the next character in the input buffer without removing it or allowing pre-read checks. So what it basically does is it doesn't take the input from the buffer stream. It only peeks at it. So this helps us to check what is inside or not in the input buffer. Then we have the endl. So it inserts a new line character into the output stream. So this you already know. This is also a manipulator. Then why do we need stream manipulators? So I've already told that stream manipulators are used to manipulate the data, but why exactly did I use it? It was because of how different input streams worked. So there are different types of input streams, formatted and unformatted. Examples are the simple cin that we use is formatted, and then there's cin.get or cin.get line. So what formatted does, it skips and ignores white spaces, that is, tabs, spaces, and new lines. But unformatted ones do not skip white spaces. They take every character that you type. So the basic function of the formatted ones is to get specific data types like integer, double, string. And the purpose of unformatted is taking raw character data, which is often used to control the program flow, like enter for pausing or handling string with spaces. Then let us look at the libraries that I have used. So I have used the IOStream library, which is the basic library that contains all the C in, C out, all the math stuff, operators, integers, etc. Then there's the random library. This supplies us with the pseudo-random number generator, the Mercedes twister, and the distributor, the seed extraction tools, etc. Then there's thread. This allows us the creation and manipulation of concurrent execution threads, which I've used to implement a wait function that I've used for pausing. Then there's chrono. Chrono contains functions that has to deal with time and clocks and time points. I've also used this in the same wait function here. Then there's string. So string provides us with a string class which manages character for dynamic text manipulation. So it basically gives us functions to make our code easier. And also the header file is included here as you can see. So let's dive into the code now. So as you can see, this is my project file, that is cws.cpp. This is the main file here. Here is the main function. These are the separate project files, game files. Here it is, the header file. So in the main file, I have initialized three things, that is the seed generator RD, the Mercedes twister gen, advanced random generator, and the opening balance of 100. And I've also declared two subfunctions here, that is show rules and wait, one of which I have used to extern here. That means to that will be declared, that will can be used among these also. So let's see how this code actually runs. So first we are gonna compile all these files into a single executable, as you can see. So it's taking some while. Then we are gonna run this file. Welcome to the luck hall. There's the main menu. Your current balance is $100. Choose the game you wanna play. That is odd even, 7 up, or Russian roulette. So or type R to know the rules. So let's see the rules first. So first, the goal of the game, that is the odd even game, is to win the bet if sum of two numbers will be odd or even, one of which you will choose yourself and another will be generated randomly by the system within the limit. And that limit has to be selected, but the minimum has to be 99. So the sum of two numbers will be computed and you will win if you bet on the correct outcome. So if you bet on odd, the sum is odd, you will win. But there is a twist. For every sum that is divisible by 5, 10, 50, or 2 to 5, the result alters. That is, if you lost, you will win, and vice versa. That is, if you had lost a game otherwise, and the sum turned out to be divisible by 5, like 15, 35. In that case, the result will alter, and you will win that bet. But, same wise, if you were winning that bet, and the outcome turned out to be 15, you will lose. Similarly, for 10, 50, and 20, 25, 2 to 5. But if there is a multiple case like 50, in which the sum is divisible by all 5, 10, and 50, in that case, first, if you had lost bet at bet, first you will win as a result alters due to divisible 5, then it again alters, you lose, and then it again alters, so you win. So it happens like that. And you will win if you win, your money will be doubled. That is, the $10 you bet will be converted to $20. So then the second game, 7 up. The goal of this game is to bet on the correct outcome of two dice rolls. So you will be given choices if the outcome of two dice rolled together is above 7, below 7, or exact 7. If you win, your money will be doubled in case you choose above 7, below 7, or quadrupled in case you choose exactly equal to 7, which is kind of low in probability. That way there is a high return. Then the third game is Russian roulette. As you know, Russian roulette of the game is to survive as you shoot yourself with a gun. In each round, the gun with 6 slot will be loaded with one bullet only, and every student sitting at the table will shoot themselves with it until someone dies. Round 1 will start with 6 members and game will continue until only one person remains. For each round you survive, your money will be doubled. That is, if you somehow manage to survive 5 rounds, your money will be converted to 2 to the power 5, that is 32. That is $10 will be converted to $320. Also, you can finish after any round with the money you've earned. That is, if you won 3 rounds, you can choose to quit and you can get away with $80 earned. But if the turn is yours to shoot yourself, you can also quit at that point. But you will lose any money you have earned till that point. Like in round 3, if you choose to quit, you can get the $40 from the previous 2 rounds. But there's a warning. If you die in this game, you will be taken out of the game as you have died for good. That's why there's a high risk, high return here. Lastly, if your balance reaches 0 or below 0 at any point of time, you'll be taken out of the game simply due to your inability to play further. Please enter to go back to main menu. So here there was a little wait which I have implemented to the wait function that I have shown you earlier. So let's play odd even here. So the minimum has to be 99, like 67. It will just choose a valid positive integer. So let's give 999. I'll be betting on even and my number will be 12. So is even. So I have won this bet and my balance is 110. So if I want to play again, I can press Y and enter. Then again choose a limit. This time let's go with 999 again. Again, this time I'll be choosing odd. My number will be 12 again. And let's see, it is even. I've lost the bet. That's why my balance deducted by $10, as you can see. So let's go back to the main menu again. So current balance 100. Let's play 7 up now. So in this, choose your option. If 7 down, that is sum less than 7. Lucky 7, sum is equal to 7, or 7 up, sum greater than 7. Let's choose first option. Die 1 is 6, so okay, it was exact 7. Well, so I've lost the money I bet and I'm 99 again. So let's play again. Oh, I've by mistakenly pressed enter. So it took me back to main menu. So anyways, let's play Russian roulette. So there are 6 seats in this circular table and I have to choose a seat for myself. So let's see. As you can see, I cannot just press any number like 7, it will invalid seat number. If I choose 1, as you can see, there's a spinning animation as where the gun will point first. So the gun is pointed at 4, player 4 survives. Then it goes to 5, player 5 survives. But as it pointed at 6, bang, player 6 is dead. So it asks us if I want to proceed to next round, which press enter or type Q to quit. Let's press enter. I get to round 2. The gun is spinning again. Gun is pointed at seat 3. Click. Gun 3, player 3 survives. Seat 4. Player 4 also survives. Seat 5. Player 5 also survives. And now, as you can see, 6 is already dead. So the gun is directly faster me, and it asks me if I still want to press the trigger. As you can see, in round 2, 3 players already survived. That means there are 3 slots left, and one of them has a gun. So there is high chance I might die. So if I press enter, I survived this one. Then, so 5 shots, 3 remain destined to die here because 5 shots were shot and no one was dead. So yeah, then press enter to proceed to next round. Let's see. So this time it's started with me, as you can see. Still wanna play? Press enter. Let's see. Bang. Now unlucky me, I died. So as you can see, it took me out of the game. It didn't even take me to the main menu here. So I died. So this is how the code works. This is how the game actually works. So let's see how the code exactly is made. So let us take a look at the main function here. As the main function is called, it gives us this welcome to the game hall. I use string 7. It generated 7 tabs for me. The spaces you saw here were due to this. Then there's a while true loop. So I've always set this loop to true until a condition occurs because I want the player main menu keeps opening after every game until player wants to quit himself. So that is why I choose this loop. So it's Cout's main menu here, your current balance, then choose the game you want to play as you saw earlier. Then it takes a char C here. So if C in dot peak, as we have already discussed, it peaks at the next character in the new line buffer. If it is not equal to new line, that is, if it is not equal to new line means someone had entered more than one character, which means this if condition will activate. Then what will happen? It scene.clear will clear in case of a fail bit. That if the scene input somehow fails, it will clear it, and then this specific function of scene.ignore will actually ignore everything in the input buffer until the new line, and then it will ignore the new line too. This is what this exactly means. Then there will be Cout of invalid choice. Try again if I try to, and then this continue will take me back to the beginning of this while loop. So switch case. Here if I typed only one character, then this if block will not activate and I'll actually proceed to this here. There are different cases for different games. And also $10 will be deducted from balance if you enter a game. As you can see here, $10 will be deducted. So if I type 1, I'll be taken to odd even, 7, 2 for 7 up, 3 for Russian roulette. And case R here, both capital R and small r, I've taken them both for consideration of show rules. Then break, take me out of this switch case. And Q for quitting this. The default, if you type anything except 1, 2, 3 R or Q, the default will be invalid choice. Try again, and continue will be taken back to the beginning of this while loop here. So after that, you will go to one of these. So let's see in case of odd even. When you go to odd even, that is this function over here, it will open the odd even screen like we saw earlier. Then I defined a play again, y, a variable play again, that is of car type. And there again I introduced a while loop where until and unless the player says to quit, this will keep repeating on. There I introduced two integer a and b that are going to be the two numbers, r that is the range, and there's a bet boolean. So here first is to choose the limit until which the numbers will be chosen. So here I'm setting the range of the numbers, and this if block basically checks if I've given a valid positive integer that is greater than 99 or equal to 99. So if r is 99, this will activate. It will clear the buffer and choose a valid positive integer. If it fails, that means I typed a character instead of an integer. It will fail. It will clear it, ignore, and empty all the buffer, and it will take me back again to this while loop and scene.peak. So the thing that happens is if you write a float in place of an integer, like go ahead and write 6.7. Take for example 3432.3. So what will happen that it will take only this part as R 3432 and point 0.3 will be taken to buffer. But we don't want that. We want the buffer to be clean for further going into the game. That's why if it checks the buffer and there is a point here, then this will activate. It will clear the buffer and tell us to choose a positive integer. Then there's RNO. So here I have declared that RNO is a uniform in distribution, but I didn't initialize its limit. And here I initialize the limit, that is 1 through R. Then B, the second number that will be generated by the system, is already set as a RNO gen, that is, it generates a random number in the range. Then there's another while loop for bet on if number will be odd or even. Here I will choose the variable bet, which is of boolean type, because I only need two values, 0 or 1. If you type something else other than that, the scene input stream will fail. Then for that we need to just clear it, empty the buffer, and send it back again to this loop. If you do it properly and choose 0 or 1, it will break out, and then we'll go into this loop next. There we'll be choosing our number. So this while loop and this if does the same thing as the above. It basically does the same thing, that if I have to type a such that it's a valid positive integer in 1 to R. Like same here, I use scene.peak, scene.fail here, empties the buffer, choose a valid positive integer, continue break, same thing. Then it will give the output of your number and the second number. So for that, we saw for the odd even game that I chose my number, then it showed my number, then before the second number came, it showed an animation of flickering numbers. For that flickering numbers, I created a subfunction called randomizer. So this is the randomizer subfunction. Here there is a for loop. For I is equal to 0, that means I is initialized with 0 value. After each iteration, I gets increased by 1 and I less than 16. It will stretch until I less than 16. So we generate another temporary variable, that is temp. This is created by RNOgen. So that is why I declared it here, because if I declared RNO inside of this, then its scope will be limited to void OE and I won't be able to use it in the randomizer. But when I declared it here, I can use it here as it is of global scope. Then it will be counting the temp, that is after your number, it will give me temp in the first iteration. Then I have declared another string type t, which is toString temp. That means this number will be converted to this. Then I'll be waiting for some time, and after that, this for loop will activate, which will basically erase the character by overwriting it with a blank space. That is, after first iteration, this number will be converted to this, and this will in turn be converted to a blank space over here. And how it happens is that we use \b. What \b does, if it takes the cursor one character back, and the next thing that types is that a blank space. So that character is overwritten with a blank space, and then we use another /b which takes us one character back. We do this for every character that is in that string t. That means every character that is in that integer, we cannot directly use temp.size here because they don't give, the function is only applicable for strings. That's why we created a temporary string t here. So this happens for 16 times due to this for loops. And this is what gives us the flickering of numbers animation, and here I use the wait function. This wait allows me to see those flickering. Otherwise, I would have just seen that number generate in an instant. So where is this wait function? This wait function is actually defined over here. Sorry, declared over in the header file and defined in the main file. Here, I have declared the wait function. So what it does, it makes the system stop processing for the amount of milliseconds you enter. Like if I have entered X milliseconds, it will stop processing. That is how I make the processing stop and give it the animation. So after this randomizer, it see outs the number, then it calculates the total. After that, it will give me that what is the total. As you have seen here, total is, it gives C, then we get new line which is even. So we get T and it checks if T mod 2, that is remainder when T is divided by 2. If it's 0, it's obviously even. If it's 1, it's odd. Then we wait. Then I define another boolean, that is win, by 0. So I check if T mod 2 is equal to bet. What happens here that I have decided that bet, if a bet is 0, if I have chosen bet to be 0, that means I bet on even. And here T mod 2, if it's 0, that means the output is even and my bet is also even, that means I won. Then win will be converted to not of win. This is a logical not operator, which means win will be converted opposite of the win which was previously here. That means if it was 0, it will be converted to 1 here. That means it will make me win. Similarly, if I bet on odd, that means the bet value will be 1 and T mod 2, if the total was an odd, it will be 1. Thus I will win. Thus this if block will activate in that case too. But I have introduced a twist in this game, that is, if the number is divisible by 5, the outcome changes. That means if T mod 5 is equal to 0, win will be not of win, that is flipping the output for every sum divisible by 5. So that will show that wait, that total is also divisible by 5, thus the result alters. Similarly, I coded for 10, 50 and 2 to 5, it's basically the same code. Then after that, if win is equal to 1, that is the winning statement, it will count that hence you have won the bet, balance will be increased by 20. Else you have lost the bet. And after that it checks if my balance is less than 0, less than or equal to 0. It will make me return. So if balance is 0, it will make me return back to the main function. Then if my balance is not less than or equal to 0, right, it's positive, then I'll go here. Cin.ignore. What it actually does, it ignores this new line buffer from inputting your number in C in A. So the last thing I inputted something here was C in A. It created a new line buffer, which still persists after all this. So I use cin.ignore to remove it. Then there's another true loop, that is, it shows my balance and asks me if I want to play again. And then I use a get. Scene.get is only applicable for car. So if I hadn't removed this slash n, it would have automatically taken the slash n from the buffer and then it would already proceeded to the main menu without asking, which we don't want. So if play again is equal to y or capital Y and this is the logical AND operator and this is the OR operators. So we have used this bracket that or with this AND that scene.peak should be backslash n. That is, should be y and not y es. That is, even this wouldn't be considered valid output. If it is a new line, that is just enter, break, we break out of this loop. And if it's anything else other than these two, then we'll be say invalid choice. You'll be sent back to this beginning of true loop where you'll be entering something in wanna play again. So after you break out of this loop in these cases, it checks if play again is \n. That means enter case. If you have enter, you want to go back to main menu. That way it will break. But if it isn't, then this if block will not activate and will proceed. That is balance is equal to balance minus 10, which means betting money. Why this happens is because if it isn't \n, then it has to be y or capital Y, because if it was only y or y, then it then is the, was the, that is the only case they can exit the while loop. That means you want to play again. So the balance diminishes and you go back to the beginning of the loop, that is here. Because this is a while true loop, until and unless a break situation arises, you have to play this again and again. So that is how the audio game is coded. Let's proceed to the next code. So this is the code for 7 up. So let's see at void underscore 7 up. So it starts with the basic of 7 up 7 down opening screen, generates title, and it starts with an again a while loop. Similarly to Audi, we want the player to keep playing until he wants to exit the game. So there will be the options of choose your option. Then we'll be given integer of choice. The same as before. Make sure the choice is an integer 1, 2, 3 and nothing else. It empties in case it's something rubbish. Then we are given the C out of rolling the dice. Now here, before we go to the die rolling subfunction, there is something that the integers d1 and d2 are already initialized. That means they've already been assigned a value. Now here it scouts that die1 is equal to, then there's a die rolling some function call. So what it does, creates the rolling effect, then displays value. So if we saw here in the second 7 up 7 down, before these dice came, there was an effect of rolling, or you can say flickering of numbers that are used to represent rolling of dice. So how it happens is due to this function. This is similar to the function in odd even randomizer as, but it is a lot simpler, for which we only need the basic 16 iterations. What we did is we generate another dice gen, created a random generate number, and we waited, and here we only see out a \b because it goes back and overwrites it. And here, as the limit of dice is only 1 to 6, we only know it only takes one character, so we don't need to convert it to a string and create another loop to erase the entire number. We can just use this \b in overwriting. So that is how the die rolling effect in here takes place. Similarly, it takes place for die 2. Then there's a total, it shows us the total, and there's the checking. If I chose the choice 1, total was less than 7, congrats, my money got double, balance increases. Similarly, if I chose 2 and the total was 7, money gets quadrupled, that is balance gets increased by 40. And in any case else, that is it fails, else is a failure only. Any of these, if something is not in any of these, it's in else, that is it's failure. Sorry, I've lost the money. Then it checks my balance to see if it's negative or equal to 0. If it is, it returns me to the main menu. Otherwise, I go forward with cin.ignore. That means it ignores the new line buffer from my cin.choice. Here, it creates another while true loop which is similar to the previous loop. It shows me the balance, asks me if I want to play again, where to play again, enter to go back to main menu. It's the same exact code. Here breaks out of the loop. Sometime for if it's an invalid choice, it sends me back here and break, and if I want to play again, my balance will be deducted. That's the code for 7 up. Now let's take a look at the code for Russian roulette. Here, as you can see, I have defined two arrays globally that are seed-s and seed-d. So seed-s is a string type array which is displays special seeds for each seed in different cases. And this seed-d is an array in bool type. This helps me keep track if the player is dead or alive. So in the main function, as the loop begins, I have defined everyone as seed. Every value of seed d 0. That is, all players are alive at beginning. Then I have defined a vector gun which has 6 slots and only one bullet. That is, 1 signifies bullets and 0 for empty. Then there are 3 different uniform distribution, that is 3 random number limits that are bullet 0 to 5, start seat 1 to 6, and rotations 10 to 15. Then there is the opening screen Russian roulette. The first thing you see, that is, there are 6 tables in the circular table, and then this diagram. This diagram is because of this display circular table. So basically what this function is, that in it starts with this loop. So what this loop basically does is that it defines seats I, that is the value of symbol of that seat for every case. So for I is it starts with I is equal to 0, seat number becomes I plus 1, which means this is the seat number 1 here, for this I is equal to 0. As you can see here, this is seat 0 here, it signifies seat number 1. Then it starts with the first if, that is, if seat number is equal to gun seat and seat number is equal to player seat. That means gun seat means the seat at which the gun is pointing, and seat number is I plus 1. And if seat number is also equal to player seat is the seat that player has chosen, then the symbol will be this. As you can see, this was the symbol when usually the gun was pointed at me. Then else if the seat number is equal to gun seat, just this, that means gun is pointed at some number. Then I have defined 3 string, that is gun, this symbol, b is equal to the left right bracket, and m is 2 string of seat number. Then seat I is the combination of these string. That means basically seats I became G symbol and whatever the number 1, 2 or something, whatever it was. This was achieved by combining these 3 strings. Else if seat number is equal to player number only, then it will show you your position. Else if seat ID is equal to 1, that means the player on seat I is dead. So it will show this. Seat D is equal to 1. Then if everything else fails, that is none of these tests are here, then it's empty seat. That means there is no gun there, nothing there. Simply these types of seats. Not gun is pointing, neither me, neither dead, just a player playing. This is also combined by combining these 3 strings F, B and M. Now I have named these same, but they still don't show a compile error because the scope of these are limited to these else blocks. And the scout just gives me the display of the table in each case the function is called. So this is to show the initial table. Then we take the input of player seat as which seat the player wants to sit on. As you can see, it took from me, and first I wrote 7. For 7, which is this, if I type 7, this loop will activate. It will show invalid seat number, continue. I'll go back here and I have to choose the seat again. But if you choose 1 to 6, you'll go out of this loop and then there will be scene.ignore. What it does, it ignores the new line buffer of scene.player seeds. This is important going on because we need the buffer empty. Then there will be integer rounds 1 is equal to 0. So there is a loop that while rounds 1 is less than 5. That because maximum rounds a player can win is 5. After that you have already won the game. So this will see out an end. This is just for beauty of the code, nothing else. Then we'll be defining a first bullet, that is generation of position of first shot, which means where the gun will be pointing to first. Then there's generation. Then there will be initialization of gun seat, which means the position of the starting seat. So position of the first shot and generation of the starting seat are different in a sense that this gun seat is this thing that we see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and bullet gen is the value in this gun vector we see. So it will be from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It can be any number from these. And then we have rotation, number of rotations. Then there is a loop. What it does, activates for rotation. So this for loops basically makes the animation of the spinning gun, which we have seen here. Before the gun is pointed at anyone, there is a spinning animation here of rolling gun. For that, we will also be given an input like spinning the gun to select starting seat. Let me show you it here. So main menu, I chose the seat. As you can see, there is a spinning animation here. It also shows spinning the gun. So how it happens is that it shows this round, which round you're playing, spinning the gun. Then it implements the gun seat by 1. That is points the gun one step further. Then if gun seat is greater than 6, that is if it goes greater than 6, we reset it to 1 because our convention only goes from 1 to 6. We display the circular table for that particular instant. Then we wait. Then we use an answer escape code. So what this code does, it moves 11 lines upwards. So slash 033 colon backslash 033 left bracket is the opening statement and 11a it moves the cursor 11 lines upwards. So if you look at it correctly, when it's spinning, 11 lines upwards from the last cursor is basically around here. After that, we exit this loop. We don't directly exit this loop, we go to the second iteration of the loop where they show again, but the twist is the gun seats get implemented. So first, the gun will be, in first iteration, if the gun is pointed here, in second it will go here, in the third it will go here, and so on. So what it does is creates the animation effect that you see. And because there is a wait here, it actually lets us see for an instance rather than making it very fast. So there's another OR situation here. If the last thing, if I plus plus and I less than rotation, that is, it a random number, it rotates for a random number of rotations. If the last seat that a gun is pointing to is towards a dead seat, that is gun seat minus 1, because let's assume that 6 is dead, gun is pointing at 6, that means seat D of 5 is 1, that is seat D of 6 minus 1, 6 is the gun seat of that particular time, is equal to 1. So even in that case, this will go again one more time because we don't want the gun to be pointed at a dead member. So this makes sure that the gun is not pointed to a dead person. Then after this loop is concluded, we see out another answer escape code of J. So what it does is that at the last, when we exit this loop, our cursor is somewhere around here. So what J does is J removes everything that is below the cursor. So the last iteration of this spinning animation will be removed, and then we'll enter this loop where this will see out another round and display the table immediately. That's why we didn't even notice that it gets removed and a new one replenishes. Let's see, still wanna play? Oh well, I died in this one. Let's try again. So I choose a seed, then it spins, it goes and it replenishes. That means it first erases it and then a new table arises. This is so fast that we don't even notice it with our eyes. After that, we enter this while loop. So this is another loop for proceeding to each seed in round. I have named this loop alpha, as I will tell you later. So it declares this round. That is, after it erases, I got round 1. It got erased, and then this will display was due to this display circular table. With gun seat and player seat gets constant at a time because when I choose it, there's nothing changing it. And gun seat is when it exits this loop, it gets somewhat constant, but it changes every time the shot is shot. Then we go to this loop where if gun seat is equal to player seat, that is, if gun is pointing at you, it will see out that gun is pointing at you. That do you still want to play? Then there's another while loop, which is just getting the input of the user at press enter to pull the trigger or quit to quit. Then we get a character define, declare a character C2, and we get the C in of C2. Now, if we hadn't used the C dot ignore here to ignore the new line, this would have proceeded. We didn't want that. That's why we use that C dot ignore. So we get this C2, and if this C2 is equal to Q and C dot P was new line, that is, there was only a Q and nothing else. You have quit the game safely, and it returns us back to the main function. If C2 was slash n, that is, he directly pressed enter, then break, we got out of this while loop. But if it was something else, that means it was just rubbish, invalid choice, go back to the while loop's beginning. So if it was pointing at you else, gun is pointing at seed something else, and we wait another time. If you press yes here, the only way you're gonna get out of this is if you press enter. After you press enter, you get here if the first bullet is equal to 1. That is, if the shot that is shot in that round is a bullet. So the position of first bullet. This gun of first bullet refers to the array of 0001, and this first bullet is the randomly generated number between 20 to 5. So if it is 1, that means gun is loaded and that shot will definitely be a bullet. And if in that case instant gun seat, that is the seat where gun is pointed, is equal to player seat, that is your seat, and you pressed yes here, that means you shot and you were dead. So it displayed that shot, bang, you died, and this makes your balance -1 and presses return. So this balance -1 actually is a special case I created in the main function, because if your balance becomes -1, that is here, you won't be getting this screen that your balance is 0, you will be unable to play this anymore. You will directly just return 0, end it after you died. But else, that is, the gun seat was not player seat, that someone else was dead, because the shot is a bullet and so the gun is shot in any case. So bang, someone else dies, and In that case, we make the gun's seat D, that is his position, we make his value 1 so that he remains dead. Then we increase your rounds 1 plus plus. You win a round, we wait, and then we go to here, which will see out proceed to next round or quit to quit. I've told you in this game you can quit after each round. So if you choose to quit here for Q, you will be displayed you left the round after round, and you will be double, quadrupled, octupled, hexapled based on the rounds you won here. Then your balance will increase such a way. Then you'll return to the main function. Else if you pressed enter, you'll break. That means you'll get out of this while loop, and there will be another break to get out of this alpha loop, which is this loop. We want to get out of this loop because we want the spinning animation again for the next round. And that's why we use another break here after this while loop so that we get out the loop alpha so that we can get another spinning animation. So even within that while loop, there enter Q, and if you try to type anything rubbish here, then it's the same. Scene.clear, ignore invalid choice, you'll get back to here. Then once you break, so the things that change here is that there will be a new definition of first bullet, new definition of gun seat, and a new rotation number. Player seat will remain the same. The amount of people dead that was defined here will remain the same, and the things will start over. That means a new round starts over. Then will be another animation, this function, and then the round proceeds such a way that I defined earlier. So this all happens until, but if the first shot is a dud, that happens if the first shot was actually a bullet. But if the first shot was a dud, what happens in that case? If the first shot was a bullet, then only we break from this loop alpha. Otherwise, we don't break. But if the first shot is a dud, then if the gun seat is player seat, that means you have survived, someone else survived, you get a gun seat increase to indicate that the gun is now positioned to another player. And if gun seat is greater than 6, we'll minus it by 6 to get into a range according to convention. Then there's another while loop, that is if seat D gun seat minus 1 is equal to 1, that is player seat the gun is pointing to is dead, then the gun seat also change implements. This keeps on happening until and unless we get a non-dead seat number, whether it's you or someone else alive. Then there's another block in case the gun seat ever increases 6, it gets minus by 6. So these blocks help make sure that the seat where the gun is pointing to is not a dead player seat. After that, the first bullet will increase plus plus. So what that basically means, let's assume that the gun seat was 3. So the shot will be a dud. That means that person will survive. The gun seat will change to the next here, and this will move to this. So this will happen until and unless it reaches 1, and this will all happen in the loop alpha here. So the things you see that click, this all happens under loop alpha until and unless you see a bang. When you see a bang, only then you exit loop alpha, and then it asks you if you want to proceed to next round, and then things start from here. So it has many ifs and whiles here. So you can only exit the loop alpha if you die, someone else dies, or proceed to main menu if either between the rounds or when gun is at your head. And in case you win all the 5 rounds, that is, your round win is equal to 5, you exit out of this while loop, and then it will see out congratulations, you have won this brutal game of Russian roulette, and your balance will increase. And then you'll be taken back to the main menu, because if you want to play again, you have to choose from there only. So once you go back here, it will check if your balance is 0. If it's 0, it will show your last balance that it was 0. You're now unable to play the game, thus you have to go return 0. This is the special case of -1. Otherwise, it will see out proceeding to main menu. It will show the ending screen that you see over here. Proceeding to next round, and this equals to line. This is actually coded in the main function, not separately in these three. So I didn't have to write them 3 times. I only wrote it once here. It was done. And then there's the void show rules. If you chose R, you'll be taken over here. These are all the rules. This scene to empty the new line buffer created by r/n, as the only way you can enter here is if you type this specific command, specific r and enter, not \n, r and enter, which created a new line buffer \n. Then you ignore it here, and then you press enter to go back. It's the same thing which I've used multiple times here and there. So yeah, this is how my CWS project is coded. Thank you all for listening to me.